In Python, you can make graphical user interfaces with the built-in TKINTER module. You can create windows, add controls, add more controls, and bind controls to data like lists, and respond to button clicks. You're going to learn how to create this window where you can delete and add employees. Let's start by creating the window. I need to create a root level window, which is in the TK class. I set the window size and window title. And start the application. The window is created and shown. You probably understood everything I typed, but the last line might be confusing if, until now, you worked with terminal programs. The main loop method starts the application and uses an infinite loop to keep the window on the screen. Only when you close the application, the loop is discontinued. You can do an experiment and comment the line out. Start the program again and you will see the app starting and closing immediately. All graphical user interface applications use a technique similar to this. It is called an event loop and needs to keep running as long as the window exists. Let's continue and add some controls to the window. I'll start with the employees label. I start by importing label and create a label. The Windows variable refers to the root window and will be the parent container for the label. The window now contains a label. By default, it was put on top of the layout. But where should it go? Creating a GUI is not easy. I recommend to always draw a wireframe before you start coding. This gives you a good idea of the layout, and changing something on paper is a lot easier than changing it in the code. As you can see, I did the same before starting this tutorial. From this picture, it is clear that all the elements are on some kind of grid. Roughly there will be 3 rows and 2 columns. I'll start by putting the label in row 0, column 0. The pack method added the label to the top of the layout. I comment out the line and use a different method. By using the grid method, the label can be put in a specific column and row. I specified the column index, row index, the horizontal padding and the alignment, which is expressed in west, north, east and south. The label is now in column 0, row 0. By the way, columns and rows are created automatically when they are specified in the grid methods. I'll demonstrate this by adding a list box to the window. I start by importing the list box and adding it to the window. The list box gets row index 1. The row for the list box has been created automatically. I'll add the delete button in the 3rd row. Very nice. Column 0 of the user interface is ready. It's time for the input fields in column 1. For this, I create a frame that is put in column 1, row 1. The frame itself will act as a grid for the controls in it. Let me show you. I import frame and entry. I add the frame to the window in column 1, row 1. And now I add labels, entry fields and a button to the frame. Let me show you what it looks like. The frame itself is not visible by default on my Mac, but you can see its child controls layout on it. At this point, the user interface is ready. All controls are in place. It's time to add data to the employees list box. I start by creating a Python list with name tuples. Most user interface frameworks have some kind of data binding mechanism that allows you to connect the controls to application data. TKINTER also has something for this, and it is called string var. Let me import and use it. This creates a wrapper around the employees list that can populate and update the list box. I connect the employees binder to the list box like this. Look at the elements in the list box. The string var object took each element from the list, created a string representation, and added it to the list box. There are two tasks left: add and delete employees from the list. I'll start by adding employees. The data for a new employee comes from the first name and last name entries. To get their data, a data binding needs to be created, just like I did for the list box. The binders allow us to get the text in the entry field. I do this in a new function, addEmployee. Look at the append method. It appends an employee tuple with information from the entry fields. Finally, the employees list binder is updated with the updated employees list. The binder object will figure out what elements need updates in the list box automatically. All I need to do is call the addEmployee function when the add button is clicked. I do this with the command parameter of the button. Time to test. I add a new employee. And that works. The input from the entry fields is combined as a tuple and added to the employees list. And by calling the binder set method with the new list, the list box is updated. As the final task, I show how to delete a list box element. For this, I create a new function. Index is set to the list box selection and popped from the employees list. The listbox binding is updated by calling the set function. I set the function as the command for the delete button and test it. I'll remove Chuck from the list. And that concludes this tutorial. I hope it helped you to start building your own graphical user interfaces. I'll put a link to the code in the comments. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and please subscribe. If you'd like to support me, check out my Python courses on Udemy. Links are in the description.